Hey, welcome to LAC Prepared. The content in this video is for educational and informational purposes only. I am not paid by nor am I sponsored by any company that manufactures or sells any products that I might mention or discuss in this video. I hope everyone is doing great. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Ryan, and let's get into it. This is video number 3 in a video series I am calling Unconventional Mindset. In my previous video, I spoke about the Tribe Training Manual, and in this video, we're going to cover the first section of that manual. And that first section is called Speeding Up Reaction Time, Motor Time, and Response Time. Okay, so reaction time plus motor time equals response time. And let me say that one more time because that's important, for throughout the rest of this video. Your reaction time plus your motor time equals your overall response time. Okay. So reaction time. Reaction time is the time it takes your brain to process a stimulus. So that stimulus can be any event that's going on around you. It can be any kind of movement. It can be a sound. It can be a smell. And the stimulus can come from the inside too, right? I mean, it can be a gut feeling. It can be your intuition. Maybe there's something going on around you and, it's just throwing up red flags. Okay. Um, a reaction time is hardwired. Okay, you can't really make yourself see faster or hear faster. That kind of stuff is hardwired. The only way to really speed up reaction time is situational awareness. That's it. Situational awareness. Situational awareness is the cornerstone. It is the rock solid foundation of probably just about everything that I'm going to talk about in these videos. Okay. If you're aware of what's going on around you, it's going to be faster to process that stimulus because you're already aware of it. Okay. I mean, some things that's not going to be the case, but in most, at least in my life, man, the stuff that could really catch me off guard, I've caught before it caught me off guard. Because if you're situationally aware, you're ahead of the curve. Okay, something's happening, something's coming, or you have the situational awareness mixed with that gut feeling, and you're aware of something that's going on, and you can also feel that something's going on. Okay, so situational awareness is about the only thing that's going to speed up that reaction time. Now, motor time is the time that it takes for you to make a movement, and that movement can be anything. It could be running, dropping to the ground. It could be running over here to take cover. And kind of in the regards of what I'm talking about in this video, motor time is also the time that it would take for you to draw your firearm and get your first shots on target. Okay. So let me just give a brief example. Okay. And in this example, a two-sided example. One side, the person is not situationally aware. On the other side, the person is locked in. They're focused. They're aware of everything that's going on around them. Okay. So situation one, you've got somebody that's walking on the street. Maybe they've got their face buried in their phone, like you see most people do, and they're off in their own world and they're just paying attention, and they're watching YouTube shorts, and they're not really paying attention. Well, over at the light, the car has just run the red light, almost T-boned another car, had to cut the wheel, and now they're speeding in their direction at 60 miles an hour. Okay, they're going to be so into their phone that maybe they hear the screech, maybe they hear that something's going on, but it doesn't register. If you're not in that mindset, it's not going to register. And then maybe it does. Maybe you kind of give a quick glance, or you're like, oh, whatever. But let's just say that it was disregarded. You hear cars screeching all the time. It's no big deal, But then something catches your eye, but maybe it's too late. Maybe that car is about to jump the curb and hit you at 60 miles an hour. And when you look over and realize that that car is about to do that, it's 10 feet away. I mean, it's gonna happen like that, right? So your reaction time is pretty much null and void without situational awareness. You're always going to be behind the curve. You're not going to know that it's happening. And when you do find out that it's happening, it could be too late. you know. So you've got that same example, but this time the guy's, like I said, he's dialed in, he's focused, he's aware of everything that's going on around him. He knows what that guy's doing over there. He knows what that guy's doing up on the roof. He knows what's going on behind him. He's paying attention to everything and everybody. He can hear things. He's listening. Um, he's just got a broad spectrum of awareness, right? He's not just locked into something else, just tunnel vision. Okay, maybe you're gonna see that car. You're gonna hear that screech, look up, see that car. You're gonna be like, oh damn, almost T-bone that other car. Now it's like, okay, that car is headed in my direction. I need to get out of the way. You know, so the reaction is going to be the same. You need to get out of the way of this car. The reaction time isn't going to be the same because if you're not aware of what's going on, then it's going to be up on you like that. Okay. If you're aware, you've got time, especially if you catch things at a distance, you know, um, that distance is going to buy you that time that you need to realize what's going on, you know. Um, but we'll go over situational awareness in other videos. Like I said, it's the cornerstone of most of what I talk about. Situational awareness is king. Um, so now we can talk about motor time. Okay, so reaction time, really the only way to speed that up, since you can't see any faster or hear any faster, is to be aware. Know what's going on. Keep your head up. Keep your head and your eyes up. Pay attention to your world. If you go through your world and you're not paying attention, think of all the shit that you're going to miss. When you're paying attention, and some would call it paranoid, but my question to you is if you're paranoid enough, right? I mean, it's not a paranoia. If you're aware, you're going to see things going on around you. You're going to see things in your world. Isn't that, you don't want to be on your deathbed and think, oh shit, I never even looked up at the sky. I mean, so back to motor time. So motor time is that time that it's going to take for you to make that movement, right? There's a ton of ways, that you can speed up motor time. Keep in mind your reaction time plus your motor time equals your response time. So speeding up either one of these is going to speed up that overall response time. Okay. So the motor time, I mean, let's say that something's going on and you have to run. Okay. But let's say that you're severely out of shape and you're 300 pounds. You're not going to be able to move that fast. And that's not, I'm not weight shaming or anything. It's physics, right? It's easier to move an object of less mass than it is to move an object of greater mass. Okay. So how do you speed up that motor time? Well, maybe drop some weight. Maybe do some leg workouts. Maybe in your spare time you go for walks. Walking's great. I think walking is completely underrated. You know, get outside and do some 6120s, do some sprints. There's a lot of things that you can do. So in regards to this video and then the tribe manual, we're talking about motor time as it pertains to, like I said, drawing your weapon. Okay. Drawing your weapon and getting shots on target. So what I would do with my kids is I would have them, any time that we had any kind of training, and I wish there could have been more. So I just kind of had to cram this stuff in, but it doesn't take very much. And having just a little is a lot better than having nothing, right? So what I would do with them is we would go down and we would shoot, okay? That was our goal. We would go down and shoot. But before we would shoot, I would have them basically stand with their arms to their sides, palms open, eyes closed. And I would say, go. And when I would say go, they were supposed to open their eyes, get their head up, lock in on a target that was out there, and go through the motions of defeating a garment, drawing your weapon up, clearing that holster, orientating your weapon, and then pushing out. Or if we were doing something that day that was just kind of a retention thing, just all those motions. So we would go through it. We would go through it, 10, 15 times, okay, before we even picked up an actual gun, And sometimes we would go shoot for fun, but this was actually like, hey, this is going to affect, this can be beneficial for the rest of your life, okay? Have them do that about 10 or 15 times. So how do you speed up that? Okay, that really has nothing to do with muscles or weight. What that has to do with is repetition and muscle memory and getting rid of unnecessary and unneeded movements. Okay, if it takes you 7 steps, and you can count them, it's like counting syllables in a word. You can count them. Okay, so you've realized something's going on. You've heard that go command, right? That's your stimulus. You reach up, you want to grab that shirt, you want to clear that shirt, grab your weapon, draw it up, and go. So how do you smooth that out? Well, if that takes me 8 movements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, then I don't want 8. If I want to speed up, I need to bring that down to say 4 or 5. You know, and how do you do stuff like that with 4 or 5 movements? It was repetition. You just keep doing it. You can eliminate all these movements. It doesn't have to be so robotic. I've taught my kids since a very young age that slow is smooth and smooth is fast. That's an old military thing, okay? And I know everybody's heard it, but they drilled that into us when I was in the army. I mean, absolutely slow because people would try to do things so fast. And when you do things fast, you screw up. Or there's too many motions because you think you need all these steps to get to this goal that you're trying to get to, right? But you don't. Be, slow is smooth. Be smooth. Be smooth about it, even if it's nice and slow. I mean, I would tell my kids that all the time. Slow down. Actually, slow way down. Do it in slow motion. Think about what you're doing. Think about where your hands are. Think about what you're doing in that moment. Where you're grabbing your shirt. Is your hand still over here as you're grabbing your shirt and starting to pull it up? Because now you got to bring that hand over. So if this hand's coming to your shirt, if you're able to use both hands, this hand's coming to your shirt. Why isn't this hand at your shirt to grab what's underneath when that shirt gets yanked out of the way? So smooth out those movements. So that's how we would build that motor time. Okay, repetition, muscle memory, get rid of unneeded and unnecessary movements, smooth it out. So we would do that before even ever picking up a gun. So okay, so now we're getting into the fun stuff, right? Now we've got a loaded handgun in our hand. And in further videos, I'm going to talk about the guns that I've shot with them, what guns I carry, my EDC. Um, but for this video, it really doesn't matter. So I always wanted them to practice the movement that they're most likely going to do when they're carrying a gun. Okay. And the state that I live in here in Texas, I mean, it's great. I mean, you don't even need a license to carry a handgun anymore. But you can walk down the street with an AR-15. But I don't do that. I don't feel the need to exercise those rights. I know those rights are there, so I don't feel the need to exercise them. And that's going to be another section. Basically, you know, the gray man mindset. Blend in. Stay off the radar. And you don't stay off any radars walking around with an AR-15. I can tell you, even though you're fine. You know, everything about your past and history is fine. No criminal. I mean, you're just the perfect human being. Okay, you're perfect. You start walking on the street with an AR-15, you're you're gonna set off alarms and bells and whistles, regardless, because nobody knows you. But we'll go into that with the gray man mindset and staying off the radar. But yeah, I don't walk around like that, and I don't open carry my pistol ever. I mean, if I'm out on somebody's property or something, maybe. If I'm doing a training course, and I need a tactical belt, and I want my holster, at the 3 o'clock and outside the waistband type holster, well, then fantastic. That's what I'm doing. On a day to day basis, I carry concealed inside the waistband and I carry appendix. And when I come across new shooters, I tell them I don't tell anybody what to do. Okay. I just tell them what I do and I give them the reasons as to why I do it. Um, But going back to what I would do with them, that's why we would go through this, defeating the garment, pulling it up. Because as my sons, I'm probably going to lead them towards the water to drink, right? I mean, I don't do that with strangers or even coworkers or colleagues. Really don't do that with other family members. I tell them what I do and give them the information. They can draw their own conclusion. When it comes to my kids, I'm like, hey, you might want to really put some serious thought and consider this one, because this is, in my opinion, guess the way that I feel is best. Okay. So I have them acting like they're going to draw their garment, pull that pistol up out of the holster, orient that pistol at the target, and like I said, either push all the way out at that target or maybe we're doing some retention type shooting. Okay. And so that's why we would work on that. I just wanted to cover that. Like, you can do whatever you want to do. If you carry outside the waistband over here, then that's going to be your repetition. That's going to be your muscle memory. That's going to be your practice. You better hope you're doing it, because we're going to get to other videos, and talking about body alarm response and all these little motor skills that you have when you're out there shooting and having fun and training. Are they're going bye bye. They're going bye bye when some crazy freak comes out of the shadow with an 11-inch blade because he wants the cell phone you're carrying, or he wants your shoes, or he wants the money in your pocket so he can go get some smoke. I mean, you need to be prepared for that. But we're going to go over that in body alarm response, and we're also going to go over violence of action and aggression. Okay, this all kind of ties together. And again, I hope people learn from this, but this is to pass on this knowledge to my kids. Okay, because they wouldn't read anything I wrote down, so I'm putting it in video format. They can just put it on and listen to it while they're gaming or whatever, while they're destroying kids in Fortnite, whatever. Okay. So now I have them on the go command, pretending, because I don't want them carrying in a holster. They don't have holsters or tactical belts or anything like that. But I have them, they know all about that trigger discipline and keeping that finger indexed where it needs to be. So I have them go ahead and hold it there, but they're still pulling that shirt up, pulling that out, and going. Okay. And while we were doing that without the firearm, we've already roughed out all those jagged edges. We've removed any kind of unnecessary movements, right? So they should be smooth and good to go. But now we're introducing that, a little bit more stress. Okay. And it's a little bit more stressful knowing that when you squeeze that bang switch, it's pop, you're gonna it's different than just acting it out, right? I mean, it's the real deal. So we would run through a few of those, and they would put shots on target, and that's what we would do. And that's how I would build that motor time. And it was all through repetition. Okay. It builds muscle memory. It builds that, okay, on go command, this is what I'm going to do. So nobody's going to be out there with you on the street when that freak comes out of those shadows with that 11-inch kitchen knife. Okay. Telling you, go. Okay. It's going to be a shock to the system. Again, body alarm response. We will cover it. But when I would do this stuff with my kids, I would change the go command. Maybe after they shot a mag or two, on the go command, sped it up, got to where everything was nice and smooth and consistent. They were doing the same thing over and over and over. It wasn't like, half-assed. It was nice and smoothed out. I would turn that go command into a gunshot, or, I'd live out in the county, so I always had fireworks. I'd be over there, just behind them, like little fireworks. And pop! As soon as they hear that pop, that's their go command. So they hear that pop, and then they go. They get it. Okay. And like I said, it was either a firework or a gunshot. Most of the time, since I didn't want to just walk around with a bag of fireworks and have to mess with the lighter, and then, I've got these digital, earphones that, they can hear. They're like, I know what you're doing, Dad. Because they can hear the lighter. They can hear the fuse burning off. A gunshot, they could hear it, but they didn't know when it was coming. Because, I'd stand behind them and I'd talk to them, and maybe I'd start telling them of some random story. And I'd be letting them know, like, hey, you hear that gunshot, man? It's go time. It's go time. And then blah blah blah, and then just out of the blue, and they would just go. So what was I doing? That was throwing in the stress, a louder sound, something that's more abrupt, something that is startling. Okay, that's the word that I usually that's the word that I use with them. It was a startle response. Okay, and that startle response does have to do with body alarm response. But again, further videos. So after a few times of that, getting that startle response kicked in, getting their heart rate up, getting them nervous and a little scared maybe, a startle response would start to go away. I mean, it would get to the point to where, a gunshot would go off behind them and they would just go. I mean, it's like before I even could register that I'd just, you know, pulled the trigger on my own gun and popped off a round so they would shoot, I'm already hearing that steel. It's like bing, and I'm like, dang. And it would just smooth out and get faster and faster and faster. And that startle response would just start going away. Okay. Because once you realize what's happening in body alarm response, you can combat it. Okay. So as we're doing that, everything's smoothed out, everything's sped up. The reaction time is sped up, your motor time is sped up, so your response time to everything is much, much faster and smoother and more effective. We would work on getting combat effective shots on the target. Okay, and that's what I'm going to cover in my next video. Accuracy versus combat effectiveness. Because everybody should always be about accuracy. We should always strive to be accurate. However, when it comes to self-defense, I want to be combat effective, and I want my kids to be combat effective. So stay tuned to the next video. We're going to cover that accuracy versus combat effectiveness. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something, even if it was just one little itty bitty thing. You know, that it's all about situational awareness. It's about repetition. It's about getting in shape if you need to be in shape for what you want to do. If you want to speed up your motor time and it has anything to do with muscles or how heavy you might think you are, that can be fixed. The reaction time can really only be fixed by being aware. Okay. The motor time can be fixed by repetition, building motor memory, getting rid of that startle response, getting rid of that abrupt, oh shit, what's going on response, and just going straight into business. And that's going to speed up your response time. Anyways, that's all I have for you guys today. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for the next video. Like I said, we're going to cover accuracy versus combat effectiveness. So stay prepared, keep that unconventional mindset, take care of your tribe, and we'll see you next time.